Good evening, welcome to this week's edition of CopaLoadofRacing, where we're going to be looking at the big race of the weekend, which is of course the Ebor handicap at York, part of their 4-day Ebor festival. Also look at a couple of other races on Saturday's cards, one at Goodwood and one at Newmarket as well. I'll pick a few tips out in those cards, well, in those two races there. Been a great week so far. We've seen some great performances at the Ebor Festival. None more so than probably Sea of Class in the Yorkshire Oaks. Looked magnificent and won that race very impressively for William Haggis. She looks a smart filly and she will go on. It will be interesting, but you would imagine the Prix de l'Arc de Triomphe would be on the radar for that horse. It would be interesting to see if she took on an Ebor. But that's to come, and it really does, fill you with excitement when you see a performance such as Sea of Class's performance. She just came beautifully into the race by James Doyle, and as I say, won it really well. Latidar followed up in the next race very impressively as well. It has to be said for John Gosden and Frankie Dettori. She now looks like it might be the St Ledger that's on her radar. It's been a frustrating time for the team connected with Latidar because of some problems there, but she came back in impressive style, that's for sure. So a really good win that was for them. Today we've seen a big shock in the Nunthorpe. Alpha Delphini winning that for Graham Lee and Brian Smart. Brian Smart looking very emotional, as you can imagine. A local trainer to York, winning such a big prize, a Group 1 race, with a horse that's, they said the removal of the cheek pieces made a big difference. Graham Lee was very much, it was his idea to do that. He felt that he wasn't seeing his opponents when they were coming close to him in races, whereas he felt with the cheek pieces off he would be able to see who he was racing against and stick his neck out like he did today, very impressively. Half brother to, of course, Tangerine Trees, who won the Abbey, and Alpha Delphini's entered into the Abbey, of course. It was a very, very close finish. It looked like it was a dead heat with Mabs Cross, another local trainer to York, Michael Dodds, who of course has won that race a couple of times with Mecca's Angel. So it was a great day for the North in that respect, to see those two trainers from York getting from Yorkshire getting big wins in that race. Disappointing, obviously, of the race was Batash, who looked he was coming there to win it, but just didn't see it out. Blue Point was disappointing, doesn't seem to perform away from Ascot, does he? So you imagine the champion sprint will be on his radar. Batash may go back to France and take on Alpha Delphini in the Abbey. We won that last year at Chantilly, so it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. But yeah, it's been an interesting week. Punting wise, it's not been the greatest, I have to say. A few big price winners, but I've not been on them. So let's hope fortunes can change for this weekend. But the other big story in this York this week was, of course, Mark Johnson becoming the most successful trainer in the UK with winners, in terms of winners. He broke that Richard Hannon record, which an outstanding record in itself. And it took a bit of time. We felt it might have come over the weekend. He was needing 3 winners, got 2. But then things sort of slowed up for Mark and the team. And it wasn't until York on yesterday when that eventually fortunes changed for him in a handicap race under Poet Society, who maybe wasn't well fancied in most parts. Frankie Dettori on board, of course. So I was delighted to see it happen. He's a magnificent trainer, ultra consistent year after year. He just churns out the winners, and his horses, you just know the style. A lot of them run under. They always trying is his motto, and they certainly do that, and that's for sure. And you know, he just seems to get bigger and better in terms of stable size and in terms of a lot more quality. Well, he's always had quality horses. Let's not forget the likes of Attraction, Double Trigger, some really great horses down the years. Shamadal, who obviously went to Godolphin, but he has a unique way about him, and he's very much respected with his fellow peers in the race. Jockeys just love to ride for him. They know what that he wants from them. He's got a very strong team there. His son Charlie, his wife Deirdre, and the whole host of team at Middleham Racing. You know, they do a fantastic job. There's no doubt about that. It shows with the evidence there of what he's achieved. And as I say, he's got a lot of not just, you know, churning out winners in Class 5 handicaps to Class 2 handicaps, but also you know, he gets those black type winners and those group, as I say, group and listed winners. He's just a phenomenon. I've interviewed him a few times down the years. He's always very forthcoming. People have said about his opinions, sometimes some don't agree with him, but that's fair enough. That's what racing's about. It's quite a complex sport in some respects. And that's what leads to some people having their say on it, particularly with somebody that's in the sport like Mark Johnson is. As I say, I might not myself agree with a lot of what Mark says from time to time, although a lot of what he says I agree with, but there are sometimes you maybe pick up on something and you think, well, but you know where he's coming from with it. You know, he always puts an explanation behind why he thinks that way. If he doesn't say it on camera or in a newspaper interview, he'll say it on his website or in his monthly magazine, the Kingsley Clarion, which I have done a feature for. Mark I sent off a feature to him via his website, just like a letter on Scottish racing, and I was asked did I want to put the feature into the Kingsley Clarion, and one of his features about like a viewpoint. And it was basically at the time when Scotland was having the independence referendum and the effect that could possibly have on Scottish racing. But yeah, he's as I say, he's always very approachable in my view. Some people might be a little bit think, oh God, you know, to speak to such a character. But I've always, as I say, found him someone who either if you email him, he'll email you back with his thoughts on something. And yeah, great guy. I think he'll just go on and get bigger and better and make that record stretch out. And I don't think it'll be beaten, to be honest. There's so much racing, of course, nowadays. The chances that he has, but he has 200 odd horses for a reason. There's a reason he has all those horses. It's because of how good a trainer he is, and we all, I think, accept that. So congratulations to Mr. Johnson. A wee sip of beer on your behalf. I'm sure you've had a wee celebration, drink yourself, Mr. Johnson, but well deserved, and I enjoy seeing his runners when I'm at the likes of Hamilton or Ayr or Musselburgh. He's always a great fan of Scottish racing, as I say, being a Scotsman himself, of course, but he always sends up a lot of horses to our meetings, which is much appreciated. So yeah, congratulations to him. There was another wee point that I was going to pick up, and I noticed it today, and I was having a wee look at the Stobart Flat Jockeys Championship, which is ongoing at the moment. Sylvester de Souza, the great SDS, is away out there in front as usual. Magnificent jockey. He shows it time and time again. But interesting to see that today was at Fosslas. I get the fact that he's you know, if you're going to want to win the championship again, if he was to go to the likes of York or Newmarket today, he would have got the runners probably, the rides, but maybe not as good a chance of winning. But I just want to, these big meetings, these big festivals, you really just want to see those big jockeys there. He's still to me very much an underrated jockey, and doesn't maybe pick up the big rides that maybe jockeys that maybe aren't as good are picking up. But that's just my own personal opinion. But I think you see that Sylvester will be at York tomorrow, which is a good thing. Right, let's move on to the racing itself. I'm going to first of all look at the 3 o'clock, the City of York Stakes, this 7 furlong Group 3 contest. Expert Eye for the stout Frankie Dettori combination is at the head of the market. But I like Above the Rest, who is for Ted Barron and Ben Curtis. And Ben Curtis he's got a really good strike rate at the moment. Something around about nearly 20%. 19% strike rate at the moment. Ben Curtis, he's, as I say, magnificent season he's having so far. Now, this horse won over course and distance at York back in June. Followed that up, sorry, I've got a bit of a cold, so might be a bit sniffly. Apologies for that. And then he won a Group 3 at Newcastle. So he is running under a £3 penalty in this race. But I think he's got the class to defy that. And I think he's at a bigger price than deserves, you know. I think he could have been a bit short on the market. It may be just because of that £3 penalty that I think that he can't defy it, but I think he can. So Above the Rest in the 3 o'clock. Now on to the T40, which is of course the big race of the day, is the Ebor handicap. Very, very rich handicap race, of course. I think the richest in the Northern Hemisphere. And we have, in a Scottish angle, we have Nikita coming back to take on, to try and recapture the form he shown last year in this race by winning it. He's only £4 higher in the weights than he was when he won this last year. Of course, after he won this race last year, he went over and raced the Melbourne Cup and performed brilliantly there. I think he finished 5th. It's been a bit quieter since then this season, but I thought his recent run at Newbury, he started to show that bit of form is starting to creep back in, and he just might be just hitting the right pitch to get himself back into. We know he can win a race like this, and there's no reason why he can't turn up and do it again tomorrow. Callum Rodriguez is back on his in the saddle, and I think that's a big positive again. He has the class to do it, as I say. It's just hoping that form is, he's, you know, from that performance at Newbury, he's moving in the right direction, and we're starting to see that the Nikita of last season, because he'll need to be like that to win this race again. He'll need to be hitting that form again. But if he creeps back, obviously, to how he was earlier this season, then he's not got a chance, because it's a very competitive race, of course. But yeah, I fancy Nikita to do well again. Willie Mullins, of course, has Stratham in this race, the horse that won that Newbury race that Nikita was in, and won it very well, and again is going to be well fancied here, even though he's went up in the weights, but he's crept into this race. Sir Chauvelin doesn't make it into the race, as Jim Goldie felt he was one of the 2 reserves, but Jim obviously looked at the Lonsdale Cup today, and Sir Chauvelin winning against Stradivarius was going to be very difficult. He did himself no disgrace at all, but yeah, Jim will be a little bit frustrated that he just didn't manage to sneak into this race. But Willie Mullins also has Whiskey Sour. He's won this. Willie Mullins is what I remember back in Sesenta, back in 2009, was it? When he won it, I think it was under Tony Carroll. At about 33 to 1, I backed it, and changing in the guard was a big horse that day for Aidan O'Brien. and Johnny Murtagh got caught in the rail, I remember. He was a very well fancied horse changing the guard that day. I think he ended up running under Dr. Richard Newland over the hurdles. But anyway, changing the guard was well fancied that day, but I thought Sesenta had a real belting chance, and he came down the outside, and just as changing the guard got out and got free, it was too late. Johnny Murtagh couldn't get him, and Sesenta won it, which I was jumping about the bookmakers like a loony that day. And why not at 33-1. Nanton actually finished 4th that day for Jim Goldie at 40-1. So it was a good day all round. Anyway, I digress. I think Whiskey Sour could run a big race. Ran well at Royal Ascot, I felt, and then went back over the hurdles at Galway and raced pretty well. So seems to be in decent form, Whiskey Sour, and maybe one to watch. Another one that I think's got a bit of class about him, high up in the weights now, is Lord Yates, for for Graham Lee, of course, who won the big race today, the Nunthorpe. So he'll be in good heart, you would imagine. He takes a ride for Jed O'Keefe here. This horse ran he's had a bit of a break, and last seen him in France, I think it was, in a Group 2 race. Ran pretty well. Prior to that, he's had decent enough showings. He maybe is high enough, as I say, up in the weights, but I think he's got a touch of class about him. And you need that in this race. It's a handicap, yes, but you need a horse with a real touch of something about it to win such a competitive handicap. And I think he has that, and he might be at a big price. He's around about 40-1 at the moment. I think he could run well into a place there in that one. So, looking at each way punts, the likes of Nikita, Whiskey Sour and Lord Yates to run well in those prices. And the 450 at York, Jim has Nicholas T in this. He just seems to be there or thereabouts in races, but he's just not winning them. I don't. As fact, the horse that I've picked out here is actually one of Richard Fahey's. I backed this a few months ago at York, Society Red, and he won under Paul Hannigan. Jamie Spencer, I think, will take the ride tomorrow, although he wasn't at York today. I've heard that he wasn't well, but I think there's been a steward's inquiry launched into it because he didn't turn up at the track at all. So I don't know the latest on that, but it may be Jamie Spencer. Jamie Spencer's booked to take the ride. But that's not the important thing with this horse. Is the last time we seen it was at Goodwood, at the Glorious Goodwood meeting, Qatar Festival meeting, and he, as what can happen in big field handicaps at Goodwood, he just couldn't. Yeah, I thought he was travelling well, but couldn't find the gaps. So that shouldn't be as much of a problem, I think, at York. They tend to more run up the middle. So going by that, I think at a decent price, around about 14 to 1, Society Red in the 450. The penultimate race on the card. Right, looking at Goodwood, 315. They've got a nice seven furlong handicap there as well. Burnt Sugar, who's been in this great little run of form, winning the Bunbury Cup, then he went and won at Ascot. Has won these races very impressively, so he's progressing well. And although the handicapper obviously is saying, right, okay, we're going to give you more weight, blah blah blah, he's done well. Problem here is he's not drawn as well, and that is a big factor at Goodwood. Maybe not the likes of Ascot or Newmarket. So that's kind of gave me a little bit. I don't know. Absolutely So comes back in. He's had a bit of a break. Is Absolutely So. This is a former Group winner won a Group 3 at Haydock, and I remember I think I backed him there Gold Cup one year. And 7 furlong horses tend to do well in their Gold Cup because it is pretty a stiff 6 furlongs. And I think he'll be fresh. again, he's talented, this horse really is, and if he's fresh and up for the fight and what would be a very competitive handicap as you would expect on a Saturday at Goodwood, he could feature in the finish without a doubt. So it's absolutely so in the 3:15. And at Newmarket in the 4:05, they've got a listed 6 furlong race. And going back on the Goodwood note, the Stewards Cup winner Gifted Master features in this race. Sorry, won the Stewards Cup, as I say, under top weighted. Obviously had an apprentice on his back, so he took some weight off there, but won it really well. Front runner. It's a listed race, but there's a few horses in this race where they've got a lot of question marks over them, and you feel they're just looking for something to happen for them, and that can happen with sprinters. Look at Alpha Delfini today, 40-1. Not many people would have gave it a chance, and then bang, something clicks in the horse. And I think that happens with sprinters, more so than horses with a bit of stamina, and that they seem to show a bit more form on a regular and a more consistent basis. Whereas you look at Batash today, you see him at Goodwood, and you think, that thing's going to muller this field. It doesn't. And he has that. He tends to throw in that type of run. Gifted Master, as I say, has a hell of a chance off the back of that performance at Goodwood. And what is, yes, a listed race, but certainly has the talent to win this race from, as I say, from a field of horses who have big question marks over them in this race. So that's my thoughts for this weekend's racing. In terms of Scottish racing, there's meetings this week at Musselburgh. I think what 2-day meeting they've got Wednesday and Thursday, and then it's a big race night at Hamilton on Friday night. Lanark Bell night. They have one of the, I think we tend to claim it's the oldest sports trophy in the world, the Lanark Bell. It's been around for years and years and years. But yeah, they've got that big competitive handicap, the Lanark Bell, and I'm sure it'll be a good night's racing there at Hamilton next Friday. Next week we have Sandown, I think it is, as the likes of the Sweet Celeria, I think. Yeah, I think so. And then we'll be in September after that, and then you're looking at the Haydocks Big Sprint Cup meeting, and then we've got the St Ledger, and then of course we have Ergo Cup. I think it's 4 weeks on Saturday, the Ergo Cup, so brilliant. Anyway, if you're off racing this weekend, enjoy, or any time this week, then enjoy. I'll be back next weekend with another preview and tips for you. Enjoy your racing. CopaLoad of Racing.